Welcome back to the Christianity and Business Podcast, an initiative of the Archie W. Dunham College of Business at Houston Baptist University. I'm your host, Darren Shearer, and this is the show that helps Christian business leaders to integrate biblical values into business. On this episode, we're joined by Dave Kahle. Dave is, he's a three-peat guest on this show. This is actually a record. So congrats, Dave. We're
I wasn't aware of that, Darren.
Yes.
Thanks.
Dave is the author of The Good Book on Business and Exploration of the Bible on Business. He's been a Bible teacher, elder, house church leader, short-term missionary, and executive roundtable leader. For 30 years, he's been one of the world's leading authorities on sales and sales systems. And in that regard, he has spoken in 47 states, 11 countries, and has authored 13 books. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Darren. It's always a pleasure.
So we're going to talk about one of the books that you've written is titled The Heart of a Christian Salesperson. And in this conversation about marketplace Christianity and how do I honor God in business, one of the issues that comes up again and again is from salespeople that are trying to live out their profession as salespeople in a way that honors God. What are some of the unique challenges that you've faced as a Christian sales professional that non-Christian sales professionals don't usually face?
Well, I'd like to tell the story about when I was hired for my first professional sales position, because I think it capsulizes some of those issues, and it's kind of a longer response to your question, Darren. But when I was hired, I was interviewing, and in the course of the interview process, who was eventually my manager said that the reason they were replacing this position, they were replacing someone who they had terminated from this position. And the reason they terminated him because he was dishonest on his call reports. So I mentioned in the interview that thinking it was a strength, I mentioned, well, I'm a Christian and I won't, you don't have to worry about me being dishonest on call reports. Well, so then I got a call from the recruiter who said, he was going to offer you the job at that, this is a lunch, he was going to offer you the job at the lunch. But when you said you were a Christian, he didn't. And he's rethinking the whole thing. And I thought, wow, this thing about being a Christian salesperson is going to be tricky. And so that's really how I start the book, with that story. The Heart of a Christian Salesperson is my story about being a Christian salesperson. It's tricky. It's tricky because there's a sort of a conventional wisdom about salespeople that they're fast talkers and, they're kind of not always to be trusted and so on. And so there is among a certain segment of the population, there is that idea. And if you have that idea, it's really tough then to be a salesperson and have that idea of them. So one thing that you have to go up against is the world's view of a salesperson, and in this particular case, my manager's view of a Christian as a salesperson.
So do you think a lot of companies nowadays actually would prefer to hire salespeople that are, shall we say, less than honest?
No, I don't think so. I mean, sure there are some, there are some really high pressure, schlocky situations. But for the most part, I work primarily in the world of business to business sales. So these are organizations, distributors and manufacturers and big service companies who have sales forces of 5 to 200, let's say. And, for the most part, almost exclusively, the people who I interact with, the chief sales officers and the leaders, the vice presidents and the CEOs of those companies are good, whether they're Christians or not. They're good, honest people who understand the role of honesty and integrity in the world of business. So I don't think anybody, well, I shouldn't say anybody, but for the most part, well-established companies are not going to be intentionally hiring people who aren't honest and have a lack of integrity.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I had just finished giving a briefing to our wing commander back when I was a lieutenant in the Air Force, and there was something I said at some point in the briefing where afterwards our operations officer, he came up to me and said, you might not want to be quite so honest about um, some of those metrics.
Yeah.
I don't. He might not have said honest, but it was.
Yeah.
You might not want to be quite so forthcoming about certain, some of those certain statistics, and that's just in the Air Force. When there's money on the table and you have an opportunity to make a quick sale by withholding some information. I mean, that seems like a great temptation, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. See, that's the issue with sales, and that's why there's such a need for Christian salespeople. And the issue is that in the world of sales, you're dealing with a lot of people, and you're dealing with a lot of money. And so either one of those by itself is a source of a lot of temptation. But when you put the two of them together, now you got a world that is just full of all kinds of temptations, whether they be financial or otherwise. It just comes with the territory, and that's why I believe it's a special ministry for a Christian to be a salesperson. I mean, it's a special ministry, a special place in the kingdom.
Yeah, and there's I don't remember who said it, but somebody said nothing happens until somebody sells something. So really, in a lot of ways, the whole marketplace ministry movement kind of, it in a lot of ways, sort of hinges on salespeople getting out and selling something. Otherwise, there really isn't a marketplace.
Yeah, that's so true. And salespeople are essential to the whole idea of a kingdom business. And from my personal experience, I would occasionally look at this number, and what I've discovered is that, generally speaking, in the world of business to business, which is the world I live in the world of business to business, one salesperson generally supports 4 or 5 employees. So if you got 300 employees divided by 4, and that'll tell you how many salespeople there are. Typically, just as a rough rule of thumb. So that makes that's a lot of responsibility, and rightfully so.
Yeah. So, Dave, how should Christians approach sales differently than their non-Christian peers?
Well, I don't know that it should be differently. Well, I suppose it should, in the sense that you are a representative of the kingdom, and you want to do your work with excellence. Now, ideally, you'd want that for somebody who was not in the kingdom. You'd want them to strive for excellence, but I think it's mandatory for a Christian salesperson. And Colossians 4:23 says, "Whatever you do, work at with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for men, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward." And I really believe that speaks specifically to Christian salespeople. I believe Christian salespeople have a responsibility to be excellent, to strive for excellence, because in the world of sales, if you are excellent, there comes with it there's some perks that come with it. Not only do you make more money, but you get respect from your colleagues. Your customers look on you with the same way, with respect. Your opinion is asked by the managers and owners. So there is a impact larger than just dollars and cents that comes with being excellent in sales. And I believe that Christian salespeople need their whole life to strive for excellence, to continually improve, so they become the head and not the tail. They're the ones that people look up to. And Peter said, when someone asks you, be prepared to to give a reason for your faith, basically. And when you're excellent and people see that in you, they want to know why, and it gives you a place to start from, to share why you strive for excellence. So now, again, in an ideal world, everybody would, but very specifically, I think Christian salespeople should.
Yeah. And of course, we're not in a agrarian age anymore. In a lot of the examples and parables uh, and contexts that are used in the Bible and discussed in the Bible are kind of coming from farming and agricultural examples. And I think there are probably few professions that could relate to that more than a salesperson, right? Because when it comes to what do they say, like the average person doesn't buy until like the seventh or eighth contact, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
And so what are some of the principles that kind of guide you as a Christian from the Bible, even if it's not necessarily the tactics of selling, but you really have to have a strong faith to even stick with it and not just kind of rely on your ego.
Yeah, well, that's one right there. Is that in everything that you do, you do it with faith, understanding the Lord's got this, and He's got you. You know, I would say there's a couple things. Number one is to focus on the customer. I believe that's biblical. You know, as we're told to, act certain ways to the world and so on. And I think a Christian salesperson would really, really work on getting to know the customer very well, so that he can provide quotes and products and services that are precisely designed for this, or precisely fit to this particular customer. You know, in one of my books, How to Sell Anything to Anyone, anytime, I have a sales process, and the sales process goes like this: engage with the right people first, make them comfortable with you, find out what they want, show them how what you have gives them what they want, and that show them what show them how what you have gives them what they want. That's crucial. And when I say focus on the customer, that's exactly what it means. So a Christian salesperson is going to focus on the customer, understanding the customer. Now, is that a best sales practice? Absolutely. And do best salespeople do that? Absolutely. But Christian salespeople have to be best, have to be in the best. And so should they do that better than anybody? Yes, they should. So that's one, you know, and there's a challenge, and this is really one of the challenges, I think, of sales, Christian sales as well. And that's this, that we're told in the Bible to trust God for results. And we understand that, you know, and there's a lot of effort done, so the Lord will take care of the results. Yet in the world of sales, I mean, we are measured by results. I mean, and we are measured very precisely by the results that we get. And so to become good at sales, what that means is that you get measurable results. You get better measurable, quantifiable results than the average. So how do you, as a Christian, how do you put those two things together? How do you understand that your profession rewards you for results, and yet you're not, as a Christian, you're not to focus on results? How does that work? And that's a challenge. That really is a challenge for a lot of Christian salespeople, is to kind of negotiate that path between those two. And I think I have a response to that. And it's in doing what you do with excellence. If you do everything, you know, if you engage with the right people, make them comfortable with you, find out what they want, show them how what you have gives them what they want. If you do those fundamental sales things with excellence, the results will follow. And you do them not to get the results, you do them because you're working for the Lord. So, but those two go hand in hand. When you act with excellence, you get excellent results. So you don't have to focus on the results, focus on the process, focus on doing what you do really, really well, and let the results remain with the Lord, and He will bring greater results.
Yes. Well said. And so you started this scholarship fund. It's $1,000 scholarship for sales professionals to go study sales at college. Correct? Tell us about this scholarship you're offering.
Yeah, well, it's for college students who are studying to be professional salespeople. and for Christian college students. And so in the last 10 years or so, a number of universities have gotten involved in training salespeople. And now they have majors in selling. And my alma mater, University of Toledo, is where I discovered this, where they called me. They saw my name as an author of a book and saw my background. They said, hey, we got an alumni here. Let's give them a call. And next thing you know, I'm at the University of Toledo and I'm speaking to the students in their sales program. And I was just absolutely overwhelmed with what a great program it was. When I was that age, there was no such thing as a major in selling. There's a lot of marketing stuff, but not selling. So what I discovered in my conversations and interaction with the University of Toledo is that there's a number of universities who do this now, who have programs for professional salespeople. And so what I want to do is reach into that world, find a Christian who wants to be a professional salesperson, studying to be a professional salesperson, and I want to help that person. And we can, we're set up, we put together a fund and we can help them, we can help somebody for $1,000 a year, just, for tuition and books and all that sort of thing, if somebody who needs some help. And that's what we want to do. We want to be, and because we want to encourage Christian sales as a very specific and special work and a ministry in the kingdom.
Yeah. Well, that speaks volumes of your message. Just the fact that you're offering this scholarship and shows how much you believe in what God is doing through salespeople and just the potential of salespeople to represent Him in the marketplace. And so, how do people go about applying for this?
Well, they can just send an email, info at davekahle.com, info at davekahle, KAHLE.com, and put in the subject line scholarship, and we'll take her from there. Okay,
perfect. Anything else you want to let our listeners know about, catch them up on that you're working on, and how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, a couple of years ago, we put, I'm a sales trainer, and I've trained tens of thousands of salespeople live and in video and stuff like that. But I was always concerned with what I call the gap between idea and action. You can go to a seminar, you get a great idea, but actually putting it into action is a whole different thing. And because that's where my mind goes, I've constantly kind of worked at how to bridge the gap between idea and action. And so we came up with a methodology we call immersion. And what we do is we immerse a sales force into a set of concepts, one at a time, one a month. And there's various pieces to the system. It is a learning system that is basically videos and podcasts and blog posts and practical exercises and a meeting that your manager holds every single month, which we script for him. And so it immerses the salesperson, or actually the sales force, into very powerful selling concepts, and we get way beyond anything I expected in terms of the results. We have people telling us you're transforming our company. We had one company that had about 100 salespeople, and they were up 20%. Their key account penetration was up 73%. 73%. My goodness. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're getting using this immersion program. So we've got a program for distributor salespeople. We've got one for business to business. And now we've got two more, one for new customers. And what I'm working on right now, even today, is a time management program for salespeople. So, and we're all in this immersion methodology, which is just getting incredible results. So,
yeah.
So thanks for asking.
Yeah,
Darren, that's what I'm working on.
Of one of those principles, those kind of monthly principles that they get immersed into.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, what was the question?
What's an example of one of those? You said there's a different focus for each month. So what's an example of a monthly focus? Yeah, well, so here's one. We're talking about Christian salespeople and the process, and one step of the process is find out what they want. Okay, that sounds so simple, but it really is. There are layers and layers and layers of depth. So we have 2 months on connecting with the customer and finding out what they want by the use of all sorts of, by good questions,
by active listening, by responding to comments, by note-taking. And so there's a whole set of tactical skills that fall under the concept of find out what they want, that really it separates somebody who's good at it from everybody else. So that's 1 month. Actually, that's 2 months. Part 1 and part 2 of find out what they want, and here's how to do it with very, very specifically.
Yeah, that's a great point, because a lot of times we want to start out giving them what they need instead of first finding out what is it that they want, and once you can tap into what they want, then you can follow up with what they really need.
That's such a great insight, Darren, and you would think it's glaringly obvious, but the world of sales is full of people who just want to push what they want to push and not put the customer at the top of the list.
Yeah. Well, Dave, this has been a great conversation. I know, as we prayed before this interview, that especially those who are listening who are salespeople, and a lot of us, if we're not selling, we're probably not seeing a whole lot of revenue coming into our companies. So most of us, I would say, probably are salespeople, even though that we don't always think of ourselves in that way. But we just pray that people have been encouraged through this, and I know that they have. I know I have on a personal level. So sure appreciate you, Dave. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Well, you're welcome, Darren. It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. And we'll do it again soon.
All right. You got a deal.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if so, we would greatly appreciate it if you would leave us a quick rating and review for the Christianity in Business podcast on iTunes. You can get more information about HBU Center for Christianity in Business at christianityinbusiness.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to keep integrating biblical values into your business.